Ask the Podcast Coach for November 21st, 2020.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music. That means that, hey, it's Saturday. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the schoolofpodcasting.com. And joining me right over there from theaverageguy.tv is the one and only Jim Cullison. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. I'm kind of excited because this is pre-Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
And, for here in the United States, anyways. And it's just, it's Thanksgiving. This is kind of the holiday for it kind of, I'm hoping, as we think about the pandemic, just a little bit of a break from all this pandemic discussions and a chance to be thankful. We're thankful, I think, for our listeners as well. And I think I'm still thirsty. What do we?
Yeah, it's time. We actually have music, and I'm missing my sound effect. There we go. But it's time to be thankful for Mark over at podcastbranding.co. Look, if you want, I had somebody from the School of Podcasting, and one of his things that's kind of hindering him a little bit, and this is normal, by the way, is, you're going to put yourself out there, and he's like, I just want to look stupid, and I'm afraid I'm not going to sound professional. I'm like, hey, one way that you can definitely look professional is by going to podcastbranding.co. If you've got, if you need artwork, if you need a logo, if you want a full-fledged website that's not just another template-based thing that you throw together in 5 minutes, Mark can make you look amazing. He works with you one-on-one. I think, Jim, you said you were thinking of using Mark.
Yeah, I think first of the year, kind of rebrand.
See, and that got me thinking. I'm like, maybe we need a new Ask the Podcast Coach artwork. I'll have to. That's tickling around in my brain. And what I would do is I would work with Mark. Mark listens to the show, so already knows what it's like, but he wants your brand to fit kind of your podcast. So if you're interested in that, the place to go is podcastbranding.co.
Cappuccino, hold the phone. Take me home.
So good.
It is so good.
So good.
That's almost got a Christmas kind of feel to it. It's so cozy.
Doesn't it? It does.
Yeah.
It feels like a warm blanket, like that just came out of the dryer. So it's already warm, but it just came out of the dryer. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
If you want to join us, if you have a question, you can jump on in, askthepodcastcoach.com/join. One thing, do we want to start off with a power rant?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
And now it's time for a power rant.
One of the things that drives me nuts is when I get to come in after somebody's already worked with a coach, a mentor, or whoever. And so I had somebody contact me. They said, look, we really need to have this first episode out by Monday. Do you know anybody who does any editing? And I was like, well, I could use a new client. Sure, let's go on. And I was talking to them because their volume levels were almost non-existent. And the one guy especially, I said, this is almost unusable because they had used Clean Feed. Now, this is nothing against Clean Feed, but their previous, he said in air quotes, consultant, told them to use their phones. And if you look on the Clean Feed website, it kind of says you can use Safari. So they're using Safari, and it even says this is a beta feature. And he told everybody to go to Clean Feed on your phone and put your phone down on the table. Not even in with speaker on. This is just, and I said, no, I go, that explains a lot. I said, if you're going to, I said the microphone in the phone, because this is a bunch of people that are not podcasters. It's in the medical field. And I said, just talk into the phone like you would. And he said, yeah, but the other guy said to put the phone on the table. And I go, well, this guy who has to edit the caca that just came out of that is telling you put the phone up by your mouth. And he said, well, won't that pick up handling noise? And I go, when you're talking to somebody on the phone, do you hear a lot of handling noise? And he's like, okay, because the other guy said to put it on the table. And I was like, yeah, and that's the guy that just quit on you in the middle. So yeah, so half the thing of getting a good sound is getting your mic near your mouth. It's like I just was, and they just kept saying, yeah, but the other guy. And I'm like, yeah, but the guy you're paying now is telling you that's horrible. So it was just, I've heard that before. Record your audio really low and then you can bring it up later. And I'm like,
oh, no,
that's
no,
not good advice.
No. I mean, there's the opposite side, which is it's too loud and
it's too loud.
It's what do they call it? Peaking.
Yeah.
It's peaking in there. So yeah, no, that's terrible advice. It's funny. We used to send these microphones. I bought about 10 ATR 2100s for work. We used to ship them all around, and almost universally, as I would give them to people, and we would connect for like a tech call just to kind of make sure everything was set up and working before the show. They would put it as far away as possible, and I'd be like, "Where's that microphone we sent you?" And they're like, "Oh, it's over. It's over. Like it's over there. Like what's it doing over there? Bring it in." You can almost watch them like bring it closer, bring it closer, bring it in. Like it was almost physically impossible. They were afraid of it, is what it was. Like having it close by. Then there's also this idea that it doesn't want to be in the shot. Like they don't want it in the. And I'm like, no, I don't care if we see the microphone in the shot. We don't do this for great video. We do it for great audio. If I want to do great video, we do something completely different. But I'm looking for better audio. So I think there's a tendency for people, Dave, you and I are used to this because we do it all the time. We're constantly bringing the microphone closer to us, but I don't think the average person.
No. And Gary says, I did a WebEx with someone yesterday and had them place their phone in front of them and send me the voice memo. Yep. It was better than the audio because WebEx, I remember I think I've tried them all, GoToMeeting, WebEx, you name it. I've been on it. And WebEx always had, and I understand what they're doing. They're compressing the file to make it get across the internet, but man, that was some bad audio. So,
well, if you can get, I mean, I've had people use their devices, their phones. I'm just trying to think where I guess I didn't even bring my phone down this morning. That's what you kind of lost without your phone, aren't you?
You're like, oh wait, I'm naked. Help me.
I think I left it in the kitchen. I have a tripod, one of those little half, like those gorilla tripods where, the legs are bendy. And then I have a holder for my phone. If you could get that in front of you, if you could put the phone on that, there you go. Yeah, Dave's showing it now. It's kind of
with the bendy legs.
Yeah, it's got some bendy legs, right? And then if you can mount the phone on top of that and put that in front of you, okay, you got a shot at it because those cameras, like on an iPhone, Android device, are front facing. And just put that in front of you. You got, especially with the newer iPhones and even on the newer Android phones, the microphones on those are really good, but you got to get them close. Yeah. So get it right up to you.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a new client. I don't do a lot of audio editing, but I told him, I said, I'll be sending you a list of things to make your podcast sound a lot better. Cause he really was kind of like, this doesn't sound good. And I finally made a video. I said, here is a picture of my audio that I record. See all that blue wave? And I go, here is yours. And it was just a blip. I go, the fact that we can even hear this guy is amazing. So, I just one of those things where when you get if you're doing audio editing, there is a bit of a learning curve when you bring somebody on. It's like onboarding a new employee or anything like that. Bank says, I have this great idea I'm launching next week. When should I submit to services like Apple? About 6 days ago.
Yeah, but I just submitted a podcast this week, 24 hours.
Nice.
Back in 24 hours. So I would say now.
Yeah,
just do it now.
Yeah, they're going on vacation November 22nd to December 2nd. So that's tomorrow. And then in December 23rd to January 2nd.
They must have been cleaning up there because it was fast, Dave. This week, like it was fast. So, but if they're taking vacation on Monday, that starts tomorrow, right, for them. So and then all Thanksgiving week for us. So, just submit it. Don't worry about it. Like have it in the queue. You can't. I don't think waiting at this point makes any sense. Just submit it. It'll get done at some point.
Well, that's the thing that I'm actually doing. Monday's School of Podcasting is. Did you ever? I think we talked about this. Quibi, which was short for Quick Bites.
Yeah.
Man, did they?
I didn't know that.
I spent last night. This is where we talk about how much time does it take to do an episode. I spent man, easily 2 hours last night because I just typed in, why did Quibi fail? And there were all sorts of insights and things like that. And the more I researched that company and the fact that you've got these two power, like just they had $100 million. Let's think about that number for $100 million in advertising before the thing even launched, because
Wow.
people are like, oh, Katzenberg and what's her name, this is going to be great. And yeah, it just every time I turn around it tanked. But so many people try to get this launch thing great, and I'm like, to me, submit it now, and then you launch when you're in Apple, Google, Spotify, and Amazon, and all that. So I did see somebody asked this question. You get it a lot in the different Facebook groups. What link do you share on social media? And this is just one. I'm like, I'm open to suggestions, but I was explaining why. I'm like, you share the link to your website where people can listen to your show. They can subscribe in whatever format they want, Apple, Google, Spotify, because you got the links right there. And if you're doing Facebook, you can actually place the pixel and you're reinforcing your brand. I go, what's the negative? Because everybody's like, well, should I just share the Apple link? And I'm like, no, because 72% of Europe is on an Android. So that was always kind of fun. But
bring them back to your site. Why wouldn't you? What's the down chat room? What's the downside to this? I don't understand why this is even a question. Why would why the Apple dominance? I get it. In the old days, Apple controlled 90% of it, right? And I get it in North America, it's dominant. But I never could understand that. Why would you go to Apple Direct when you could bring them back to your site, brand it there? I don't know. I just don't understand that. Why is that even a question?
Well, not only that, but if they've got the link, they might put the link on their website, which is going to boost your Google juice. And the fact that if you're trying to get them on something like a newsletter or something like that, well, okay, now you've got that, you're one click away from that. So, but Gabrielle says, is the whole Europe thing, is it because of the cost that most of Europe is on Android? Probably. Yeah. And I don't know if it's the marketing. I don't, this is where we need Craig. Maybe they just don't advertise as much, but I think maybe Europe isn't quite. This is where I'm guessing. Jim, you might know because you work with people, but I mean, is there as much keeping up with the Joneses in Europe as,
Well, it's a different market.
Yeah.
And so it's just Android is less expensive. It is a cost factor in it.
Yeah.
And Apple's expensive. I mean, it
is.
It's so you can, and let's not, I guess when we think of Europe, we really should say EMEA, right? To include Africa, because that's a big market. That's a gigantic market down in Africa. So, and of course, I mean, Android probably controls 95% of the market in Africa. So you've got some, I think it's just a cost. It's kind of a cost factor. Those phones are cheaper. Apple makes 4 or 5 phones. I don't know. My words in my hand and not doing the same thing together. I was going 5, 4, 5. Android, there are so many different kinds and different costs, and so I just don't. And Michael in the chat room had said, I'd asked why not bring it back to your website, and because the website's expensive. Not really. Not in contrast to all the other expenses that are out there. I mean, you can really set up your own website, your own domain, pretty inexpensively.
Yeah. If you're doing the SiteGround thing, be careful, because that first year is super cheap and the next year is super not. But cooler websites, Maple Grove Partners, you're looking at $15 a month, which that adds up, but it's still there. I forget who I was on.
Even Podpage is an option for. Yeah,
that's $5
right?
for the basic one.
I know. Yeah.
So, but speaking of expenses and stats, that's the world's worst transition.
Let's go with it.
Yeah. This is I think it's interesting. Hopefully this will work. Buzzsprout put out a thing, kind of like what Libsyn does. When I was just like, ooh, stats are fun. But they showed that Apple, since we're talking about what is, according to Buzzsprout, Apple has 47% of the marketplace, and followed by Spotify at 24%, Google at 2.4%, which is what Lipson shared. Rob shared that. And then web browser, that's the one I wanted to kind of pick on. The web browser is 2.1%. And the reason I want to pick on that is so many people freak out over the player. And I'm like, it's 2%. Like you're spending 100% of your focus on something that's 2% of your listeners, and not, get a player. I like Simple Podcast Press. There's Fusebox's Pat Flynn's thing, or I don't know, just use the player from your media host. Most of them aren't hideous. I will admit some are prettier than others, but so I thought that was kind of interesting. Just that, because I've always said it was less than 5%, and it's that. But you see things like, I was surprised Stitcher is 1.8%. I was like, wow. And no, that's the other thing. I just heard about this on the feed, and I haven't checked. Stitcher got purchased by someone who I can't remember, and in the process, they updated Stitcher. And from what I understand, there's a really good chance, I have not checked, that the link to your website on Stitcher no longer works. And so if you're using something like, social subscribe and follow from Daniel, or if you just got links on your website, you might want to double check those.
The portal login changed for sure. So I think it used to be Stitcher.com/
it's
podcasters or podcast something, and now it's podcast.
Is it used to be partners. Stitcher.
Yeah.
And it's not that anymore?
No, I think that's what it used to, because I had a link. I keep a spreadsheet for work. I keep a spreadsheet of, okay, when you're onboarding a new podcast, here's all the things that you need to do. And here's where we've signed up for stuff, because keeping track, well, you've got all these podcasts. Right. Keeping track of more than 5 podcasts is a little bit of work.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a spreadsheet to kind of, when did I submit it? Where did it go? I have a column that says submitted to Apple. Made sure you don't have to submit to Google for the most part anymore, but make sure it's working in Google search engine. They found it, right? That's that kind of thing. You can kind of prompt them to do that. Yeah. Did I get it on Stitcher? Did I submit it to Spotify? Now we use Spreaker as our host. They actually have a really nice distribution dashboard that's got probably, 10 of the major ones you can submit to. And you can either submit through them. Now, some of them I submit myself because I want to control it in the control panel on the site. But other ones, I just let them, like Deezer and iHeartRadio. Yeah. I just let them submit it. I don't need to track that stuff. So we go through and do it that way. So Spreaker does a nice job.
Yeah, Daniel says from the Audacity to Podcast, he says the thing about the web player is it could be someone's entrance into the podcast. So while the total consumption may be low, it could be among the most important. That's a great point. To me, I always say the web player is like the guy. Remember when we could, first of all, remember malls, and then remember when you could go to them? But that's the guy in the food court.
Wait a minute. People go out?
Yeah. But that's the guy standing there with the chicken on a platter giving you free samples. That's your web player. And when people listen to that, and then you don't sound like caca and you grab their attention quickly, they're like, oh, wait, hold on. I want to go buy the whole sandwich now. So that's part of it. But at the bottom of that, they have episode downloads the first 7 days. I'm not sure I get this. The top 50%, so their median is 28 downloads. I'm not sure I get that part. They have a little information button. If your episodes are downloaded 231 times in the first 7 days after the release, you're in the top 10%. Well, I guess we're in the top 10%. That's kind of interesting. The most podcasts are 20 to 40 minutes. That's at 32%, followed by 40 to 60 minutes at 24%. Then over 60 minutes is 18%. So again, less than 10 minutes is only 12%. Episodes published every 0 to 2 days is 7%. Most people publish weekly, which is 3 to 7 days, followed by 8 to 14 days. That's probably the every other week. So just some interest. It's like, yay, stats to geek out over. So, and then Daniel says Buzzsprout's median download is significantly lower than Libsyn. Yeah, I want to say ours is 138, something like that. I'd have to check. I will say kudos to Buzzsprout for putting this. I do wish Libsyn would put this stuff in their show notes, and I guess they're doing it so that you have to listen to it. But yeah. But anyway, Craig is saying Sirius XM bought Stitcher. Yeah, for 325 million. So that's who messed up your links. And that's just one of the, as a rollout from what I've heard.
Mine are the same. Mine still work.
Are they? All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan's saying mine are working. Okay. Because I've heard a few people say that it wasn't exactly what I would call a smooth transition. But
I think did their stats get a little bit better? For partners?
That would be nice. I just know it's one of those things that you just haven't heard much from them besides the fact that, well, they got bought, and that was it. They were owned by Cribs, and then it was, they kind of were the hot potato there for a while. And yeah, when I log into the back end, it doesn't look any different. Let me see here real quick. Yeah, they might have upgraded I see the same thing. They're showing you how many listeners you have and listening time. There's another one, but that's not really per episode though. So that's interesting. They do have episode stats. Let me share my screen here real quick.
Yeah, I was going to do the same thing. I'm going to complain about something, but.
Well, this is just, okay. So obviously we don't get a lot of listens on Stitcher for Ask the Podcast Coach. Average completion rate. See, that's the one that will make you cry. 36%. Listens download ratio. So I'm 0.2%. Interesting. Average listening time is 16 minutes for Ask the Podcast Coach. That's a cool stat, and that's yet another stat that you won't get if, in the event, you let Anchor submit your show to that platform. More stats that you're not going to get. But Jim, do you want me to throw yours on the screen?
Yeah, throw it. Thanks for asking.
The
other week you're like, hey, what are you looking at there? Here's one thing that's hard. So I've got a couple, these are over the years. I've done a few podcasts. The ones on the bottom row, I don't do anymore. Radio Higher Ed's gone out of business. Rich's Random Podcast Generator, we don't do anymore. The Silicon Prairie News Minute's gone. I'd like to get rid of them. So let's just come over here and say, okay, I want to actually take these down, and they're like, darn, we don't have stats. Yeah, that's because it's done. Walk me through the process of actually removing this from the dashboard.
Oh, that's a good question.
It doesn't exist. Like, I think I must have to contact them to remove it, because you would think, no, not show stats, episode stats. No, manage show. Okay, that's probably
that's where you can update the feed. So if you've moved from one host
now you
to
can
another.
hide it, right? So I can come in here and it says need to hide the show from Stitcher. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hide this show, and I can click OK. And now it is not in a sense, it's not showing up anymore on Stitcher,
but it's still in your,
it's still there. There's no remove button.
Ick. Yeah. I have that situation with Apple where, back in the day before you had, the Apple ID thing, I would submit people's shows for them. I'd have clients. And so I log in to my back end, and I have all these podcasts that no longer exist. And I was like, is there a way to delete? For a while, I had a client that had set this up where he hired voiceover people to read like medical news. And then he had intros made for each client. So it was basically the same podcast, but you would rebrand it as your own. And then you had these people. So I have a bunch of dead medical shows when I log into my Apple Podcasts. I'm like, is there any way I can get these 15 shows that are the same thing out of here? But at the time, I mean, this is like 2007-ish. So that's always fun. Yeah. And then Daniel says hide is probably what you'd want. Then you get to keep the historical data. Yeah, that's true.
No, I really want delete.
I want it out of my, I don't want to go.
Yeah. I don't want any history. I don't. And I get that. For some, it should have both. To be honest, hide, keep it around if you want it. That's a great option. And then delete. Yeah. Like, I want to be done with this thing. So,
and just have are you sure with that when you click delete, Yeah,
you're going to remove all. There are times I want to clean up. I want to clean up my dashboard. I'm like, I'm not ever coming back to these. So let's get rid of them. I don't know. I'd have to think about on Spotify. If I log into the Spotify portal, can I pull them from Spotify if I want to?
You can. See, I've never thought about that. It's usually, how do I add it? I know Spotify will give you more data and more stats and let you know your favorite, like your audience. For some reason, my audience loves Ed Sheeran. And I'm like, really? Are a bunch of, 20-year-old females listening to my podcast? Like, what's going on?
They're 30 now, Dave. Let's just be honest. They're 30 now. Ed's been around for a while.
Yeah. I was deeply amazed this morning that Spotify sent me a song, and I was like, I love this song. It's called Love Yourself. And I'm like, who sings this? And I'm like, it's Justin Bieber. And I'm like, I think this is one of the signs of the apocalypse. Dave Jackson will like a Justin Bieber song. I was like, really? So that's what are we finding over at Spotify? Anything to share?
I can't.
All right.
I'm having trouble finding the portal to get in there.
Oh, that is podcasters.spotify.com.
Podcasters.
Yeah.
Spotify.
.spotify.com. And while you're doing that, I'm going to take a second to thank our awesome supporters. I really do appreciate this, especially with this month, especially. This was November. I knew it was going to hurt because I had rent at my old apartment and electric bills and things like that from the house. It was like, oh, great, double the bills. That's always fun. This is now back open. If you're looking for some one-on-one consulting, that is at a much discounted rate. You can be the teacher's pet. You can go over again to Ask the Podcast. Just go to patreon.com/Dave Jackson. We'll take you there. But we always thank our awesome supporters who give us $20. And that says a week. That would be great. It's $20 a month. I need to fix that slide. So awesome people like Kim Craggy over at Toastmasters101.net. She actually sent me this cool graphic. It says, podcasters, do you want to develop your voice? Do you want to reduce editing time and improve your content? Then you want Toastmasters. So check her out over at Toastmasters101.net. Max Trescott over at aviationnewstalk.com. The Indie Drop-In Network, where they connect listeners with amazing independent creators. Find them at indiedropin.com. Glenn the Geek Hebert. Hey, Glenn had yet another surgery. He had problems with his gallbladder, it turned out. And the good news is he's through the surgery and everything went fine. And we're hoping that he's on the road back to recovery because, Glenn, seriously, you've won the award. Congratulations. You've had the crappiest ending to 2020 of anyone we know. And we want you back healthy and Scooter probably misses being whatever you do. I was going to say ride, but you don't ride Scooter. He pulls a cart or whatever the thing is behind the horse. Yeah, that would be the cart because you don't want the cart before the horse. Hence, Scooter's ready for a cart ride. Carl White over at Life in the Carolinas podcast. So if you want to check out what it's like in the Carolinas, check that out. lifeinthecarolinaspodcast.com. Ed Sullivan, the one and only SonicCupcake.com, which kind of sounds like a cool name for a band. You know what I mean? It's like this Sunday, Sonic Cupcake. Maybe not. Shane over at spybrary.com. If you want to get your spy on and do a little James, I was going to say James Brown. Yeah.
I thought you were going there.
James Bond. That's boy, if you combine those two, hey, that'd be like, so that would be different. And we should say, rest in peace, Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah.
Died in the middle of Ask the Podcast Coach a couple weeks ago.
Sad day.
Michael Delaney over at Baby Mountain Radio Productions, where podcasting hard work is made fun. Check it out, babymountainradio.com.
But let's be clear, Sean Connery was not listening to Ask the Podcast Coach.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he was actually still dead at the moment.
We don't want to be known for that. Like, we don't want to be known for killing Sean Connery.
No, that would be bad.
We didn't.
Greg over at debtshepherd.com. If you are looking to get your money in order in 2021, check him out at debtshepherd.com, where he teaches financial wellness. And we'll do. Okay. I thought I had this hit, but we're not. Corey Finneran at ivenv.com. Chris Holofield at iamsaltlake.com, who won, by the way, an award for like best local podcast. So congratulations to Chris. Ed Ryan. At podcast.
I just wanted to do that with you.
Eric Hunley at unstructuredpod.com, Illiquity at travelglutenfree.me, Jason Bryant at matttalkonline.com, Jason at cuatx.com, Jeremy Dennis at transmissionspodcast.com, some guy named Jim Cullison, the one and the only, at theaverageguy.tv. And Jim, I was thinking about this. You mentioned this last week. The name of your show is Home Gadget Geeks.
Yeah.
Should I change that?
No.
Should I start introducing you
No.
from no? Okay.
No, because I want them to come to the network. Like we have 2 shows out there. The Average Guy.tv is the network address for it. So I want them to come to the network. It's dominated by home gadget geeks. But when you land on the Average Guy.tv, it's really, really clear where the podcasts are.
Nice.
So yeah, no, that works just fine. Appreciate that.
And Jim Harold at podlords.com, Joe Salsi High at stackingbenjamins.com, Jay Cleveland Payne at morebettermedia.com, Carrie Porter Bond, speaking of bonds, at keywestperspective.com, Kim at teachersneedteachers.com, Kim Slusher at distractedlifepodcast.com, Master Cauldron at cauldronscript.com, Matthew at scottishpodcast.com, Michael Ray, Ross Brand at livestreamuniverse.com, Rob Griffith at bedtime.fm, Troy at blacklistexposed.com, another Troy at frontporchstudios.com. And if you'd like to be an awesome supporter, simply go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And if you'd another way you can support the show is by going to profitfromyourpodcast.com and pick up the book if you're trying to make some cash with your podcast. So thanks to everyone. And Jim, it looks like you might be a little thirsty.
I am thirsty. Can you support me on a pour here?
There we go.
So good.
And
thanks to all those supporters, by the way. It means a lot to me. I know I say this from time to time, but it means a lot to me that you guys support Dave. So thanks for doing that.
Well, another way that you can support Dave is if you go to Ask the Podcast Coach. Let me put this in the chat room. And for the record, if you're listening to this later, everything we're talking about, you can find at askthepodcastcoach.com/320. But I have worked a deal, and this is all your fault, Jim.
Yes. I love it when it's my fault.
Man, it was probably a couple months ago, you bought something from Sweetwater, and you were talking about like, wow, their customer service is incredible. Yeah. And I started kind of nudging people over there like, hey, anyway, and you're going to hear Dave's working on a couple partnerships. I think that's going to be something I do in 2021 because that is a way to kind of grow your audience. And to make a long story short, if you go to askthepodcastcoach.com/Sweetwater, that is my link, and I do get a bit of a kickback if you buy anything over there. And I looked into this because I thought, well, it's cool that they have great customer service, but they also have things like for almost everything, you get an extended 2-year warranty on everything you buy. And I actually, because a guy called me yesterday from Sweetwater. Why? Because I ordered the Zoom P4 because I wanted one because I think they're cool and I recommend them a lot. And I'm like, I should probably have one so I can really make sure I know what I'm talking about, for lack of a better phrase. So they called me to let me know that it had shipped. They didn't just send me an email. And I was talking about that. And he said, oh, yeah. He goes, it doesn't happen a lot. He goes, but we've actually given people like stuff, even though the manufacturer warranty was a year. If something went wrong and it's still under the 2-year warranty, he goes, yeah, we've shipped people stuff. He goes, because it's, taking care of the customer. So they also have free shipping. So if you're like, yeah, but I'm in an Amazon Prime thing, nope, free shipping. So I don't have to pay for shipping. And they also have tech support. So if you get stuck with something that you bought from them, you can actually call them and go, hey, I'm trying to plug the thingy into the whatchamacallit and it's not doing the hoojamajiggets. So yeah, so that's something I'm kind of excited about. And I'm hoping, because man, they love to call you. That's great. I'm hoping to build a little bit more of a relationship than I did with, say, B&H or Amazon, because these, it's just something I'm hoping that's going to turn into something, because we all love gear.
Well, he texted me yesterday, and said, hey, I'm working with your buddy Dave now. Thanks for the referral. So I was like, I have literally bought less than $200 worth of things from Sweetwater. Like I made that one purchase. They kind of and from that one purchase, they've stayed in contact with me, and they must have some serious, and I think some podcasters could learn from this. They must have some serious CRM mojo going on that either is automatic, where it sends out this note automatically, or it prompts them to, hey, reach out. It's time to reach out to so-and-so and send a little note, right? Because that keeps it top of mind. Now, I'm going to buy this Mo2 M2. And I was thinking, I wonder what the price is over there at Sweetwater. It's the same as Amazon, and it's free shipping. And they call me. That's never going to happen at Amazon. If I had a problem with it and I needed to ship it back, that's not going to be a problem with Sweetwater. So Yeah, I think I'm with you. I continue. I'm getting ready to buy this M2, and I think it's going to be at Sweetwater.
Well, now you can go to askthepodcastcoach.com/Sweetwater.
Yeah, yeah.
But well, I was checking their prices because that was the other thing I looked at. And for the boom arm I'm using, the M48 from Samson, they were actually $10 cheaper than Amazon. And I was like, well, hello, that's kind of cool. The only thing I saw, because here's one of the things. Now, this is a Dave thing. I don't know that you would have to do this, but because I have multiple websites, I started using a website called Rebrandly. I think it's .com. And what I do now is I put my affiliate links or partner links in there, and then I use that link, and that way I can see how many links from all my websites are using that link. And the other thing that made it really nice is I updated the links there once, and it updates on all my websites. So that's kind of cool. But Bangs, before it rolls away, I wanted to throw this up here. Rode is planning a Ask Me Anything over, and I'm assuming that is Reddit because it's Bangs. So if you go to Reddit/r/podcasting on the 23rd, which is 2 days from now, at 10 a.m. Eastern, Rode will be doing an Ask Me Anything. Good, because my first thing is going to be when does the Procaster version 3 come out or whatever? Because it's going to be interesting to see. And while we're talking about events, I do have another one. Let me put the link to this. Podcast Movement is doing an event, and silly me, I copied the link, but I didn't copy the details. It is, I want to say it's December 9th, and it's just it's a home for the holidays Podcast Movement virtual meetup. It is Wednesday, December 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, from 2 to 4. So it's just an online meetup thing. And I think that's where they're using that cool program where you kind of hear the murmuring in the background. It's Swagoo or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it feels like there's a buzz.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something I would definitely, I'm hoping I have it on my calendar. I'm like, I don't want to forget it. I've been doing that a lot lately, because there's so many virtual events.
Right.
And you're like, oh, and then you finally like, oh, I missed it. Jason Bryant says Sweetwater's text helped me on my studio. 192 Personas blame the computer, and the tech ticket replies would only respond on Sunday. So Sweetwater kicked in for that. Kim Craggy from, again, Toastmasters 101. She says, I love Sweetwater.
So what's your link? What do we use again?
AskThePodcastCoach.com/Sweetwater. Okay. Or schoolofpodcasting.com/Sweetwater, or supportthishow.com.
Don't confuse them. Don't confuse them. Just one link. Not too many CTAs there.
Yeah. And then Doug says they also have sales on returns on demo equipment, which is cheaper. Yeah, that's something I've seen other people do that, like scratch and dent sales. The DBX I have, the 286, I got, I want to say at, because that's a long time ago. It might have been BSW had a scratch and dent sale. So yeah, those are things you can see refurbished. I see that on Amazon on occasion. You'll get microphones that are.
Do you know how long the cookie lasts on your link over there at Sweetwater?
I do not know, to be honest with you. But they with some really cool people. They have like a team. So just a matter of being persistent and, again, building relationships with people and things like that. And then, I forgot about this. If you're in Ohio, Audio Technica is right. It used to be literally like a mile from my house. Audio Technica has a big sale at the end of the year. See, here's the thing though. That's in person. That adds a wrinkle to things. So I'll have to see. But it's like major blowouts. I would love to have a set of Bluetooth headphones, because I'm constantly,
I'm not a big fan of those.
Yeah.
Especially for podcasting.
Because it's going to shape the sound.
Well, one is Bluetooth is notorious for latency. So even if it's a half a second, it's different. And so depending on the quality of what you buy, if you're buying really good quality, you might be okay. So Bluetooth has a latency issue. The other issue I've seen is a human problem. We see this all the time with the earbuds, the AirPods. So people put them on, wear them, use them. Mic's okay. It's not great. They're okay. I mean, I'd still rather have this. But then halfway through the interview, the batteries go dead because they didn't recharge.
Yeah.
And so, when you're on an active call for a long period of time, we have our folks connect a half an hour early. Well, getting an hour and a half out of those things on an active call, if they're brand new, but you know how small those batteries are on those things?
Yeah.
I mean, they are tiny. So if they haven't been taken good care of, or they're not charging them on a regular basis or whatever, sometimes you can only get 45 to 60 minutes out of that. So I know it looks fancy and it looks good, but I can't. People want to do that. I'm like, can we put a headset on? Even the Bluetooth. So Jabra makes a Bluetooth version of their Jabra. The Jabra ones we use at work are really good. They make a Bluetooth version, and everybody I connect to, Dave, every time I connect to them, like, hold on, let me do the thing, and it stopped pairing, and the thing, and the thing, and you're like. That was my best Dave Jackson, by the way. The thing and the thing.
I bought a cheap pair of Pro Buds at Walmart for $10. And the thing, I always wonder if real AirBuds or AirPods or whatever Apple are called, these are not a lot, but they're not as loud. Like if I listen to Audible on these things, I'm outside, it's like I almost can't hear it. And I'm like, is that just me going deaf? Because that's a thing. But I always wonder if I bought real Apple earbuds, if that would be the case. But
no, it won't.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they'll be better quality than those. Yeah. I have a version of what you have as well. Calls, it's only in mono. It does some weird things. Like if I get the phone too far away, the Bluetooth's not very good on them. So yes, the quality is way better on a pair of AirPods. But I just. It's not my favorite thing. It's also not my favorite thing to have the microphone way back here, on somebody. So,
Well, question in the chat room. Dave Jackson, are you going to submit a speaker submission for Podcast Movement 2021? Are they accepting submissions already? I was just in the Podcast Movement, Facebook group this morning. I will. I mean, I wasn't asked to speak this year. I submitted something. I need to. That's a great point. I probably should start working on like getting ready to submit, because that was my problem. I waited till like there were like 3 days left to submit. I kind of threw something together and kind of was like, well, hey, I'm Dave Jackson. And they went, yeah, that's not it. My description wasn't very good. I went back and looked at it. I was like, yeah, this looks like you kind of rushed it. You didn't really think about it. And so I'll submit. I don't know if I'll get picked. I mean, that's the thing. It's, as podcasting gets bigger and bigger and bigger, one of the things I think they did a really good job on the last one, I've been listening to a few of the replays, and that is it's obvious that they have said, which is good, there's definitely more diversity in there. So it's a case where there might have been a case in the past where, it was, the first one especially, and they'll be the first to admit, was just like, hey, let's get a bunch of, middle-aged white dudes to talk about podcasting,
right.
And over the years, they've grown. I mean, I still remember, I forget which one it was, but it was me and Rob Greenlee when he worked for Spreaker, and you had to go downstairs to go to the event. That's where all the vendors were. And we were walking to the bathroom, and we looked up, and there was a wall that had like chairs that folded out of the wall. And it was just, the whole thing was just female. And Rob and I were like, this wasn't happening a few years ago. So, so I'll definitely, I'm hoping it goes. When is that event? Because I know there were times when, like, I'm assuming podcast or Podfest is in March or April, like it always is. And it's one of those things where you kind of go, yeah, March, that's 4 months from now. But I don't know about you, but I'm starting to think COVID is never going to go away.
I think we have a good year with it.
Yeah. Well, the medical podcast that I'm now editing, their next live event that they were promoting was 2022. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's the first time I've heard that. And that's medical people. And I went, maybe we should be paying attention to that.
We canceled our in-person event for this summer for 2021. We were going to try and go back to being in person. And they just made the announcement this week. It's 100% virtual. So we're back for 2021, summer of 2021. It's virtual. We'll try in person again in 2022. I think that's, 18 months from now. But yeah, we canceled and went 100% virtual.
Yeah. Jim, have you had to do any presentations online?
Oh yeah. I mean, in September, I went out to a university and did a presentation in person,
Mm,
masked.
yeah.
I did it masked. It was hard, but I'm doing, I mean, I do presentations every week, and
Yeah.
we're having to do this kind of stuff all virtual. So yeah, I'm finding the switch. I don't even think about it anymore. Like like, of course we would do a meeting, a virtual meeting. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
You know?
The
Yeah.
the biggest thing I have found of doing online presentations that I just miss
Mm.
is the energy. The fact of looking at your audience and seeing, is this going over? And I mean, you can, to me, that's kind of what's, as much as you're up there to have words come out of your mouth, for me, there's a huge amount of like, how is this going over? And especially if I'm doing jokes, like, it's, you don't know if these are landing or not. Because if
Right,
I'm if
right.
I'm at an audience and they're just strictly business and I start throwing in a joke and it's just crickets, I'm like, okay, no more of that. You can kind of adjust your style maybe a little bit on the fly. And so I just miss being able to see how things are going. And it's weird because people are watching.
Yeah, but if you can get them on camera, this is the thing. Like, if you can, I did a Chicago-based user group meetup.
Mhm.
So they were all from Chicago. It could have been
Yeah.
anywhere, right? But they were all from Chicago. We got them, and we did a podcast first that they watched, and I had one of our PhDs on there talking about that, and then I dropped off the podcast and joined them in their Zoom call, and we talked about it, and there were, I don't know, 12, 15, and they were all on camera. It actually worked out really well. It kind of felt like a room again. Like, I popped in and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" Da, 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 da. And then I say, I'll take some questions. Do me a favor. Just, if you have a question, just put your hand up so I can see you. Like, again,
Mm.
like we would be in person.
Yeah.
So I can see you have a question, and all just to control it, I will call on people. Well, I don't see, this is where I think we lost our minds with the virtual space, is we thought it was different than being in person, and it's really not. What drives me crazy on calls where there's no rules, people just butt in and interrupt each other and
Mhm.
think they can talk. That would never happen in a room, or it wouldn't happen as much, especially around a guided conversation. So I just kind of help by resetting the rules when we get there, just to be like, "Hey, look, I'm going to there'll be some time for you guys to ask me some questions. Just raise your hand when you have something, and I'll recognize that and then be able to call on you." It goes a lot smoother that way than just kind of allowing this open. I mean, you could do open format at a room, and we all know how well that goes. It doesn't go very well when everybody can just talk when they want. I don't know why we think we can't do the same thing virtually. So, Craig, that's been one of the things I've been, as a host or as a a speaker in these. Make sure we have some pretty clear connection rules. Like, let's just make sure we recognize everyone. Dave, the other, and this happens in person too. The other thing you got to watch for is the person who wants to talk all the time, like,
Mm.
just dominate. And that, again, that happens in person. It does. You get, but you can, it's funny if you engage with folks in that, and they're watching the camera, you've got them. If they're
Yeah.
looking away or checking email, okay, well, step it up. you
Yeah.
know it's just like in person. How many in-person meetings have you gone to, Dave, in the past where you were talking and people are out on their phones? It happens in
Oh
person,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's
So
one of
get
the things,
get over
especially
yourself.
at a podcast event. But that's also the thing that I either will start to be more animated, or just, I don't know. To me, I'm like,
Hey,
I
I think we set the tone, Dave. We set the
yeah.
tone. If you're on there, you're the tone setter for it. I have this big old monitor that when I'm doing a call with a lot of people, I'll just throw it up on the big monitor, so it makes it feel like I'm seeing faces in that are
Yeah.
life size, and not little tiny. Or, this is again an area where I like to have as many people on camera as possible, because it
Yeah.
adds an element of accountability. So
Yeah. When I spoke at an event 2 weeks ago, and it was a Zoom meeting, and but the way they had it set up was kind of like this, where when I was doing it, I didn't even see the chat room. It was just me and my slides. And I was like, and that's the
oh,
other thing I
great.
find, and that's where I was using Logitech has a software that allows you to put your face in the corner, kind of over your slides. Because to me, if I'm watching, I don't want to just watch somebody slides and hear their voice. I'm like, that's kind of icky. But yeah, it's going to be one of those things. I really am looking forward to the days when we can go back to face-to-face stuff and that whole 9 yards. So.
Well, and so now StreamYard has full screen ability, right? So I could take what we're doing, and it used to be in a little tiny box, and I could make it full screen. I just did that. I was like, oh, this is so much better to see a bigger version of you than to, have you in that little tiny box. So if you're struggling to connect with people that way, get it bigger on your screen.
Yeah. We have, going back to gear for a bit, Eduardo says, for podcast and video live stream, should I wait for Zoom PodTrack P8 or go buy Zoom L8? The L8 has a learning curve, if that's the thing I'm thinking about, because they have the L12. P8 has a better setup for voice. Or do you go Rodecaster? Well, I'd have to go look at the L8. The P8 is designed for live streaming. They even have that on-air button that the Rodecaster doesn't. But the thing that, for me, which I'll be doing here shortly, that I let the guys at Zoom know, is I really like the fact that when I hit some sort of music, so if I'm, hitting, this music, I can turn this down, but I can also see that I have 16 seconds till this is over. Yeah. So if I wanted to talk over this and then turn up the music as it starts to end, I can see that. And you don't see that on the Zoom one. And I was like, that if you're doing live stuff and you're going to be, now here again, as always, it depends. If you're not doing that kind of stuff, well, then who cares? So, but, that's my whole thing on that. The P8 isn't out yet. And that might be a case again, where if you're not going to be doing a lot of kind of stuff, why not use a P4? The P4 will let you go, at that point, if you're not doing the fun-filled kind of stuff and, not playing any kind of music and things like that, you don't really need, you could do that with a Focusrite. You just need an interface. And so that's why I like the P4, is the fact that you have 4 buttons. You can tie a phone into it. Now you could use Backpack Studio and have as many little buttons as you want. So I don't know. Not that I'm anti P8. I just like, if you for bang for your buck, and it really depends on what you're doing. I don't know. Was that helpful at all, Jim? I think I
think so. Well, they're 3 very complicated pieces of equipment. I haven't messed with any of them, so I don't know. But it's worth looking into. Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying, Dave, is if you don't need all the bells and whistles, downscale a little bit. But then again, if you're buying this and you think you might use it in the future, you might want some of those features that are in there, just in case you want to use them for some reason, especially live. Sound effects are nice live.
Yeah. I think it was Bangs in the chat room was saying that the P8 does have built-in effects. The P4 does not. Yeah, that's true. But again, you could always fix that in post. And the other thing, when I was talking about the buttons, you can see here where the P4 has 4 little buttons, where the P8 has 9. So if you're really,
they're so small, that just scares me. I look at that thing.
Well, that's the thing. Remember, the P4 is the size of a checkbook.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, holy cow. So
I don't think live streaming, if we're thinking about live streaming being actually where you're going out and doing those kinds of things, I don't think that gear has to necessarily be small. I mean, I think it's handy when it is, but I like the Rodecaster Pro size. It's still pretty small. I mean, it's not gigantic. But I don't know if I need to go Zoom all the way down for that. I don't know. Yeah. I just say, Dave,
the road is this big, but it doesn't work.
I just imagine you picking it up and then getting pulled out as you were doing that.
Yeah. Mystic Max says, the PodTrack P8, can you set it up that when you turn up the mic fader, it turns down your speaker monitor? I'm trying to figure out why it would do that. Turn down your speaker monitor. I don't know. I don't think so. He says the Rode does that. I'm like, really? I know they have there's a thing in the road that you basically say, who is the designated speaker? So if you have like a View type situation, The View is a TV show here in the US where basically 4 women get together and all talk at the same time. And so on the Roadcaster, in theory, if you're the designated host, it will lower everybody else's volume for if again on the main 2-track download. And I think Zoom has something similar that's supposed to at least quiet when people aren't talking. But again, I go back to who would you rather have sing at your birthday, Christina Aguilera or Demi Lovato? I'm like, neither one is like, you can't really go wrong with either one. The P4 is $200. That's the nice thing versus the P8, which is $400. I know the Roadcaster, maybe it's $500 because the Roadcaster is $600. So, but no, the P8 is not $199. That's definitely the P8. What is the P8 these days?
While you're looking that up, Bang says the P4 is $200. You'd have to justify anything above that, and I kind of have to agree on that. You know, you kind of think like, okay, what are you doing? And if you think about spending the extra $200 or $300, whatever it ends up being, you got to justify it to yourself. Now,
yeah.
if money's no object, then just go with the most expensive one for sure. Right?
Yeah,
but $500, right?
Yeah, $500 for the Zoom PodTrack P8, and if the Roadcaster, I'm almost positive is the Roadcaster Pro.
I like the bigger buttons on the Roadcaster Pro.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger. Yeah, the Roadcaster Pro is $599, so
$100 more.
$100 more, and the biggest difference between the two is the effects in the Roadcaster. Like they have a noise gate, and for me, that's like a godsend. Especially, I have a neighbor that was mowing the lawn yesterday. I'm like, dude, it's November. There is no lawn to mow at this point. What are you doing?
Hey, now you're treading on sacred ground.
Yeah. But so, and then Bang says, of course, you can always go with a mixed pre, and now you're into holy, those
three for most people would be great. It's, how quickly we've forgotten about the mix pre. Those were out. Podcast Movement. 19.
It's been interesting. Yeah, it's been interesting to watch because it was the mixed pre's, and then you had PreSonus come out where you had the SD card, and it was a recorder / interface, but it was also more like a mixer. Then you had the Roadcaster, and now you got the PodTracks and the Zoom. So, and each one's getting smaller and less expensive, which is interesting. So,
is that Mix Pre 3 really $700?
Yeah, and the 6 was $1,000.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And mine is in a closet getting dusty.
And Dave.
I need to get that on
you do.
eBay now.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
But
on Sweetwater, I can get that as low as $20 a month with 36-month financing.
That is something I saw, and I was like, "Oh, that's scary."
Some of it's interest free, so you kind of think, well, they just spread it out, and I don't know. It's tax time. I'm starting to think about all those things.
Yeah, when I was in my 20s, man, 90 Days Same as Cash was my middle name at the music store. I would just walk in and be like, "Hey, I got this new guitar," and my guy's like, "It's only $89, 90 days same as cash." And I'm like, "Oh, get away from me, Satan." Yeah, it's like, you're killing me. Craig says, I've been very happy with my Roadcaster Pro. It replaced my DBX 286. Yep, same here. Mine's right on the bottom shelf down here, sitting here doing nothing. I was like, so. But anyway, Jim, what is coming up on the averageguy.tv? So
our friend Chris Nessie, who is in chat a lot of times, who's joined us here on the show on Ask the Podcast Coach, is on. We catch up with Chris, kind of get an update on technology and COVID, what's going on in schools. He's a high school teacher and teaches at the college level as well. So we spent a little time kind of getting an update from him on that and the technology around it. So I'll post it a little bit later this weekend. You can head out to theaverageguy.tv.
Awesome. At the School of Podcasting this week, I did a deep dive last night into the company Quibi. And if most people in the chat room just went, what? And the fun thing about that is they spent $1.7 billion. They lasted 239 days. They were spending, that calculates to $7 million a day. And they went out of business. So
we call that trickle down economics.
Yeah.
Trickle down.
So I really spent a huge amount of time last night researching exactly what they did. And it's interesting because it's stuff that, again, you're like, what's that have to do with podcasting? Well, there are a lot of things that I see people do that I'm like, hey, it's not the tech. And they had some really cool tech, but again, nobody's going out and saying, hey, check this out. If you watch this movie and you go from vertical to horizontal, you get a different camera angle. And nobody cares if the movie you're watching is horrible. So that's coming up along with, I have another edition of That's a Good Question. And that's a new segment I've been doing. You can find that over at the School of Podcasting. And of course, you can find us here every Saturday, askthepodcastcoach.com/live. Thanks to the chat room. Thanks to our awesome supporters. If you'd like to be an awesome supporter, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome and stick around for some post show. And I am chickening out. Oh, is it time already?
This is a small cup.
Okay.
Or I'm thirsty. One of the two.
I am playing with a new tool, but I have yet to log into the dashboard. In fact, I'm not even sure I have a dashboard yet. But it's an interesting. Let me see if I can find the website. It's called Refer-O-Matic. Crap. And I was on the waiting list, and then it's the people behind glow.fm. And here again, it goes back to knowing it, like relationships. So when I saw it was from Glow, I went back and checked through my emails. I'm like, hey, I had her on the show. And I said, hey, can I kick the tires on that? And what it is, I cannot find a link. But it's coming. Refer-O-Matic. And what it is you basically come up with like, hey, if you send 5 people, and because if you remember, Glow had that cool thing where people, you would send them a link and Glow would figure out, oh, you're on an Android. Let me show you Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're on an iPhone, it would send you Apple Podcasts, Overcast, whatever apps that are popular on that platform. And so the idea is, hey, if you refer 5 people to me, I don't know, I will give you a shout out on the show. If you refer 20 people to me, I don't know, I'll give you a t-shirt. It's this kind of thing. So it's kind of like an affiliate thing, but instead of paying people with money, you get to, it's a little bit like Patreon that way, but I like the idea, number one, because I don't know about you, but if I get yet another email about, hey, we've got a new service. Oh, really? What is it? It's a place where we connect people looking to be guests with podcasters. And I'm like, oh, good God, do we need another one of those? Because seriously, we've got to be approaching double digits with those kind of websites. And this was, hey, if word of mouth is one of the top ways that people are discovering podcasts, how can we dump gas on that? And I was like, that's interesting. So I was actually earlier going through my email to see if they gave me, because they said I've been set up. I guess I could give you that link, but I don't know how to check it. Like, I don't know how, this is what it's going to look like. If you go to, at this point, refer.glow.fm/school of podcasting. And I think I have it set up, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So yeah, 5 referrals, you get a custom thank you video. 20 referrals, you get a shout out. 100 referrals, and you get a signed copy of my book. And 500 referrals is a 30-minute coaching call, because I'm thinking that's going to be insane. But I don't know. I don't know if anybody wants to sign up. I've yet to see it. I don't know what it does. I honestly just had it approved last night. But I was like, I like the idea because it's something different. And I was like, yeah, this could actually be useful. Although it does make you wonder if somebody can sign up a bunch of fake email addresses just to get a copy of your book. But I was like, not really worried about that. But so that's a new feature that's coming. They're in right now. You sign up for the to be on the waiting list. And again, because of relationships, I got to say, hey, can I actually kick the tires on this thing? So that's new. That's coming down the pike.
Worth checking out.
Yeah. So
I just it's an easy sign up, right? So in theory, I could, because I just signed up, I could copy that. I get a referral link from you right away, right? I could copy that into Twitter, right? In theory,
Right.
and say they even give me some. They even give me some text. So
Can
I
you
could,
share your screen?
yeah. Hold on,
Because I've not seen it.
oh, you haven't seen it from this end?
No, I haven't even.
See. Let's go here.
You've
and
seen
then-
it. You've seen as much as I have, which is the page. And I think I have another email coming, and they said, because again, this is like super beta. All right. So if we sign up, and then they give you a link. All right.
Yep. Share with your friends. So they give you a sample email. Hey, wanted it. So
Right.
I'm gonna copy that, and I'm gonna take it over to Twitter, and I'm just gonna post right in. Nobody follows me on Twitter, so. And then no, I'm just kidding. And then I guess we'll copy the. I'm gonna copy the link, and I'll bring it over to Twitter. Here, I'll paste that in. If you're watching the show live and you're on Twitter, you can watch me at Jay Collison, by the way, if you want to do that on Twitter. And it says, hey, I wanted to share one of my favorite podcasts with you, School Podcasting. I think you'll really enjoy it. Check it out by clicking this link. So let's just tweet that. I'll do it. What do they call that? Stock. I just did it stock.
Okay.
Exactly what they gave me. So, and then get your reward. So I imagine now on on the back end, Dave, you can see me as an account holder on the back end, and then it would count the number of referrals. By the way, I don't need, when I get to 500, I don't need the 30 minutes of coaching.
It says I will get an email every time a new referral is signed up. Oh, there's a button here. Click here for the dashboard. I'm going to introduce you to Chris. Chris is the leading podcast success for Refer-O-Matic, and will guide you to make sure your relaunch. So I'm not officially launching. Look at me.
Well, Miss Eileen just retweeted my tweet. So hey, if you're listening,
yeah,
let's get this thing rolling.
I got Gary Stockton and Jim Collison.
Yeah, there you go. Retweet my tweet at Jay Collison, and let's see if we can move this thing around a little bit. See what kind of stats Dave gets.
That's interesting. So, but I let me see if I'm getting any emails yet.
So the referral is back. So that link then, where does that take me? Where the referral link itself? Where does it go?
That's a good question. Let's see.
It goes to where it goes. Jim Collison, I think. Oh, wait a minute.
Start listening now.
Oh, I see. So this is what people will see when they click on that link. And then they can scan it with their phone or listen on Spotify.
See, I was kind of hoping there would be subscribe buttons to Apple, Google, and Spotify.
Well, Spotify for sure.
Yeah, maybe if I go into my dashboard, I can put the links to the other things. Maybe.
Yeah, I would think you could add Apple and Google to that.
But I did just get an email. Yay! Someone signed up to share School of Podcasting. Jim Collison at theaverageguy.tv. His unique referral link is this. Here's your dashboard for more info. So let's go to the dashboard. Okay, the dashboard is just a Google sheet. But the cool thing is,
this looks nice, Dave. This looks really nice. They've done most of this work, right? You added your own branding, and then
they asked me. They go, "What's your branding? What's your hex colors?"
Yeah, it looks really well done.
Yeah, and here's the fun thing: I have your email address.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be.
Well, Dave, you had me at hello, but I
mean, interesting. So
yeah, thanks. We're getting a few. Miss Eileen retweeted. Joe Taylor just did as well, and then Kim retweeted my tweet. So thanks, guys. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. You can still do it.
Fun little experiment.
I've Jay Collison on Twitter.
I can't remember. Hold on,
Kim. I'm not following you. Well, I am now.
I can get the link. I just remembered I talked about this in the School of Podcasting group. So I'm like, I know I have seen the link to this thing before, and it's something like refer-omatic- something. Oh, here we go. No, it's just refer-omatic.fm is the link if you want to get on the sign up list. Oh, wow. Don't you hate it when you copy something from Facebook and the link you then try to copy is 12 miles long?
You set on these referrals, they have like Patreon does. They have levels that you can set. Does it? Well, you may not know. Does it flag you when someone hits those levels then, so that you know?
I don't know. I like I say, when I click on what they're sending me here is the dashboard. It's a Google sheet. And I would show that, except I would then expose everybody's email address. So I won't do that. And so far it's just 2 people, but
Kim says she doesn't do anything on Twitter. Well, she's got a Toastmasters 101 account on Twitter. So,
yeah.
So, and it's okay. You don't have to do anything on Twitter. But Gary just put through. Gary just retweeted my tweet. So Gary, thanks for doing that. Do I follow you, Gary? I don't. So let's get that done. Very nice.
There we go. So that was kind of new and exciting. That I was like, huh?
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. I was, when you first started talking about it, I was like, not another gimmick. But actually going through it, now I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if my audience, these kind of things don't work for the Home Gadget Geek audience, but
what it's going to be is, again, your super fans, because I want to support you, man, in your art, that kind of person. And then again, if you come up with something that people want, a shout out or something like that. And I mean, anytime you have any kind of contest, there's always the doors cracked for somebody to try to, hack the system or whatever. But I was like, all right. And it's $20 a month. If somebody's wondering, I was like, well, I'll kick the tires on it for.
Oh, that's this whole thing, $20 a month.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's when I was like,
what's the ROI on that?
That's when I asked, I go, do I get email addresses? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, don't know that I'm going to do, because I hate that when I sign up for, something A, and the next thing I know, I'm on somebody's email list. And I'm like, I don't remember, asking to get on that. So, cool. Miss Eileen says on her phone, it gave her 3 options: Apple, Spotify, and Pocket Casts. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that makes sense, because we're on a Windows device, so it makes sense that maybe it senses that and just defaults to Spotify, because you wouldn't have iTunes or Google Podcasts on Windows.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna. God, man, I forgot my phone. I was gonna say, I'm naked without my phone. Jeez.
The other day I was thinking, because I have an iWatch, an Apple Watch, and I pay monthly for that, basically the way I did it with Verizon. And because I'm looking like, how can I cut back on some of the expenses? I'm like, you know what, that Apple Watch, it's cool and all, and I love the fact that I can start and stop podcasts on my wrist. But I'm like, I think I could handle just doing it on my phone. And then this morning I couldn't find my phone. And I went to my Apple Watch, started Spotify, and said, play this song on my phone. I was like, oh, it's in the bathroom. Okay. So
there it is. You can also turn the camera on from your watch. So go to the camera, and so you can kind of see what it sees, and you can, right, whether it's on the front or on the back, you can kind of flip the cameras around. Oh, that's where I left it. So you can, and you can't spy on people with it. So when you do that, the front
not without some planning first.
That's true. That's true. You gotta be smart about it.
Hey, if you have a question and you want to jump on in, askthepodcastcoach.com/join. Let's see. Oh, here's another interesting link. This is from my buddy Paul Culligan, and just going back to the whole ratings and reviews. He says, I know all the cool kids say it's ratings and reviews that get you places at Apple Podcasts, but our client is currently and legitimately at number 5 in all health and fitness without a single review. And I just watched Rob's presentation from Podcast Movement. He always does the thing, all that marketing BS is still BS, 2020 version. And he showed how, I think it might have been health. But what he did is he looked at the top podcasts in that category and then put how many reviews each one had. And yeah, there was one in there that had a ton of reviews, but there was one that was like number 12 that had like 2. So just again, it's subscribers, it's not reviews that get people up the charts. And again, I'm still not positive being high on the charts. Granted, it's better than not being on the charts, but I don't know that it gets you a ton of stuff. So here's another way. If you lose your phone, Bangs is saying you can make the phone generate a find me tone if I swipe up.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a find me.
Yeah.
in there.
That would,
Yeah, yeah. You can. It's hard to lose. Well, it's easy to lose it. It's easy to find it too. There's lots of things to help you find your phone now. Apparently, that's a thing.
of losing your phone.
Yes.
How naked do you feel right now?
Totally. I'm invulnerable. Like I'm like, no, where's my phone? It's sitting. I know exactly where it's at. It's on the island upstairs.
Yeah. Bank says ratings and reviews is busy work for the most engaged listeners, so they think they're helping. Well, that's true. And it does. I'm not
It feels good.
Well, the other thing I've seen where it did help is somebody was trying to get a sponsor and they went to see how many ratings and reviews they had. So keep that in mind. If you really want to have a panic attack, be in your Uber on the way to the airport and reach for your phone in your pocket and go, and there's like, it's not, and then you realize it's, in your inside coat pocket. You put it in whatever pocket that you never use because your hands were full or something. But there's like that 2 seconds where you're like, no. And I was like, when you finally find it, you're like, okay. And then you check your watch and you see your heart rate's at, 197 or something like that. So that's always fun.
It's awful. It's the worst feeling. Like when you think you've left it on the table at a restaurant or something,
I'll have to
at the airport.
Yeah.
You get on the plane and you can't find it. And you're like, God, I left it in the seat.
Yeah. Gary's letting me know, and I'll let Amir know that there's a typo in her introductory email. Again, it's like, it's not officially launched yet. This is beta stuff. So it says, I'm the founder at School of Podcasting. It should say, I'm Amir, the founder of the company, the team that School of Podcasting is using. There you go. Is it supposed to sound like it's coming from me? I'm the founder at School of Podcasting. Yeah, could be. Banks has a great point. I stopped buying black phones for this reason. Here's my mistake. I mean, everything I have is black. Here's the thing for my lights, which aren't even on. The remote for my lights is black. My phone is black. My wallet is black. And when I throw them on my desk, which is black, everything's invisible. So it's I almost come in and just start feeling my desk. I'm like, wait, it's
like a black hole. The switch for my light sphere is white. And you're right. My desk is two-tone, so it's black in the center and then tan on the sides here. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. I'm starting to look around. I'm like, yeah, everything is black.
What I've done is I've just set it up. Like I have a thing in my kitchen now. I have a really cool. I got this. It's a magnetic hook from Home Depot. The thing holds like 20 pounds. It's a super duper strong magnet, but it's got a hook on it. So when I come in my house, I just take my keys out, hang them on the fridge. So I always know my keys are on the fridge. And so what I've started doing with my desk is all the remotes go here. And if my wallet or phone, they have a spot on my desk. And it's always one of those things like the one day I started to put my phone back here on the bookcases behind me, and the voice in my head said, don't do that. You're going to forget. And I was like, all right, hold on. Designated spot. Yeah. So that's always fun. Here was a fun one. Yeah, we got time for this. What would you say to this person? So this was Cameron Stack and the Podcast Movement Facebook group. I have a podcast client that is determined to triple their podcast downloads by February. He says, I think he means honestly don't think they're willing to spend the time and money it will take to get 350,000 downloads, real downloads, and 30 to 50,000 new listeners. If it were you, what would you do and what would you change? Yes, I know measuring a show by the downloads alone isn't a very smart because it could be a crap show or paid listeners, and there are so many other variables. And I was just like, I think I would look at my client and go, that's not realistic. I would set expectations. I just saw a thing at I was in the line at the grocery store, and there was our good friend, Dr. Oz, on one of those magazines. And he said, you can lose 48 pounds by Christmas. And I wanted to punch him in the face because I was like, you can. I'm like, I think Glenn just did that because he had 3 surgeries in about 2 months. So I'm like, but I was like, I just don't think I don't know when you hear somebody say, I'm going to triple my downloads in what is more or less 3 months. Well, unless you have one download, you got a problem.
Yeah, I'm always skeptical. It can happen. I mean, you can get a viral event going of some kind where, you hit something and it goes crazy.
Yeah.
Miss Eileen retweeted what she sees. I've got it up on the screen, Dave, if you want to show that. So there's
that's
Twitter.
cool.
Yeah. So that's that from the link that I sent out. That's kind of what you see off of her phone. I think I wonder if I click on that, if we get a full screen on that one. There we go. So that gets you, gets you kind of a look on Twitter there. Let's see. How do I guess I close that out that way. Gary's
Thank you, Miss
jumping
Eileen.
in there. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. She's awesome. Mr. Ken Blanchard, Speak Life Church. Love that. Here's a guy that's been a pastor for years and was like, I'm just going to start an online church. And it's, and that was pre-COVID. So he's like he's a genius. Saw this coming maybe. Thoughts on tying all your podcast to one feed? Not a good, no. And here's why.
One site, it's different than one feed, by the way.
Yeah. Here's one thing I'm going to do, by the way. I've decided this because if you go to powerofpodcasting.com, I have all my shows. I have a plugin that is set to pull in all the episodes. And I've never really got an official answer on duplicate content for Google, but I think what I'm going to do in the future with Power of Podcasting Network is just have a page, a description, maybe a trailer, and subscribe buttons. I don't want to, because it's another WordPress site I have to manage. And the only reason I have that for me, my in quotation marks network, is just if somebody goes, what other podcast do you do? I can say, oh, just go to powerofpodcasting.com. So I'm going to be doing that in the future. Jim has his network.
Yeah, well, this is the averageguy.tv, but it's pretty clear. I mentioned this during the other show. It's pretty clear when you land here what you can do, right? And so we have Cyber Frontiers that plays, but we only do a Cyber Frontiers every probably fifth Home Gadget Geeks. But it's really clear from the layout here what you're getting, right? I use the album art to kind of separate these two. It's really, really simple. So, but they're on completely separate feeds. You don't want to mix those because there are some people who want to listen to one and not the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, so I would say, going back to Ken's question, you can offer it, but don't make it the only offering. So you could say, hey, here's show A and show B. I've got Cyber Frontiers, I've got Home Gadget Geeks, or if you want everything, I think Jason does that with his wrestling stuff. He has a gazillion wrestling shows, and you can pick the ones you want, or he has a master feed. So that would be my thing. Don't just have the master feed, because that's like saying you're going to love everything on Netflix, and even, or let's say you had, I always use music, but let's say you had a blues network, and some of it was Delta blues, some of it was electric blues, some of it was, blah, blah, blah. I love the blues, but when you start playing, Lightning Hopkins from 1938 and his guitar's out of tune, I'm like, I can't take that. So not everybody loves everything. And in a Netflix, I want it when I want it, where I want it, how I want it, when you only give them that shot. So that would be my advice. I don't think it's bad to have a master feed unless it's a lot of work. But oh, here we go. Jason has this. Master feed seems to have overtaken my flagship show. There you go. So
some people do want it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would.
Yeah, there we go.
I separate this is using Daniel's plugin, by the way, social subscribe and follow. Yeah. Very, very handy to get these really cool looking graphics. But I have a subscribe page that gives them all the various, you got to kind of dig to find it, but all the various ways to connect. So Apple, Google, there's the RSS feed. They can go Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, or now in Amazon, which I think goes to Audible. And then
it does.
They can also, I have a video large and a video small option. Again, my audience asked for video RSS. I don't think that's something everybody needs to do, but mine, that they said, I said, just watch it on YouTube. And they're like, we don't want to watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
We want an RSS feed. Dave, I'm surprised. I get hundreds of downloads to that video RSS feed. I don't understand. I'm like, who are you people? But they continue. Who are
these people?
They still continue. When I first opened it up, there's some of them got up to 1,000. I was like, what? Where's this coming from? I always suspected maybe it was bots or something, but who knows?
Yeah. This one I thought was an interesting question from Stacy, again in the Podcast Movement Facebook group. Hey, podcasters. Part of my podcast is going to be based on me driving around in my car looking for vacant homes and the stuff that I talk about and look for, and so on and so forth. Yes, I'm also taking video for YouTube, but a simple phone mount and my phone is not cutting it for the recording in my car. The light is too dim. The mount is not stable enough. The sound is just horrendous. Can anybody suggest the type of camera equipment I should get for my car like I see on reality TV? Thanks so much for any heads up on this. My thought on this when I heard this was, A, what's your show about? Because it just sounds like she's driving around. So I think she kind of assumes we know what she like when she says looking at vacant homes and the stuff I talk about. I really wish she would have expanded on that. Anytime I hear anybody podcasting in a car as they're driving, that's another one that are just like, that's not a good idea. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jim? Is it?
Well, I mean, it's illegal, but
Yeah.
just to be transparent, I think all 50 states it's illegal now. In Nebraska, if you even have your phone on while you're driving, in other words, if the screen is up and you're touching it, they can ticket you for that. Yeah, it's got to be completely hands-free, which is weird. I don't know how they'll enforce that, but yeah, I would if you're gonna. But although, okay, I say that, so that's our legal disclaimer. It's illegal. You shouldn't be doing it while you're driving. All those other kinds of things. There are, I mean, if you look on Amazon and you look at some of the mounts that, I mean, they've got some mounts for, and I think look for the ones that used to look like the we used to have for GPS mounts. They've got some that stick up to the windshield. They've got some that will maybe stick onto your dashboard and you can get some movement with it. You're not going to want to do, you're not going to want to do a vent mounted in most cases. You don't want to do the vent. You're going to want to kind of get that thing up by the review mirror. So you're look for go to Amazon or whatever and look for car mounts. Does Sweetwater sell a phone?
That's a good question.
Mounts?
Let's find out.
I am pimping Amazon. We should maybe.
Well, that would be another one where if I type in phone mounts, or if I type in my case phone mounts, they do actually have.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Gibraltar smartphone gooseneck. All sorts of fun things.
Pull off and do those recordings. Do not do them while you're driving.
Yeah. Dave, I would love to hear this. Dave says, one of the shows I listen to only has a master feed to the network, not the show. Mm-hmm. Does that annoy you? Because I know I listen to a show that has, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they do interviews on Monday and Wednesday. And then on Friday, they kind of do an Ask Me Anything kind of thing. That's really well produced. They pick the questions ahead of time. And I listen to the Friday show. Not that the interviews are bad. I really like the Friday show, and I wish there was a way I could get just the Friday show.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to revise my answer. I said no to this when Ken first. I said no. I'm going to say yes, but you also have to have separate feeds. Have them all, right?
Yeah, and Dave says yes. That is annoying. So that's that's why you got to give people the choice. So, and that's again, if you listen to the School of Podcasting on Monday. When Quibi first came out, it was available on the phone, and that was it. So I was like, wow, let's make it. You'll hear. It's amazing. That's a really, really smart people with a lot of money making really, really dumb mistakes. How would that work for a podcast? Sounds more like video. Yeah, it is. And that's why she said, when she first said, I'm driving around talking about stuff, I'm like, that's really bad audio. So I think this might be a case where, again, the word podcast and YouTube are getting interjangled together. So that could be.
I know of a YouTuber who does it in the car, but turns the camera forward and then records the content of the camera facing forward while they're talking. And so you get to see where they're at and what they're doing, which I think is a good alternative. If you have to do it while you're driving, turn that camera so you're not looking at it, right? Turn that camera away from you. And that's kind of a way of getting something interesting if you're going to use it for YouTube. Maybe something interesting. I enjoy watching it. So
awesome. Well, believe it or not,
man, this flew this morning, Dave.
It did.
It's unbelievable how fast it went.
I don't know about you, but it seemed like did we take a week off last week?
No.
I know when I was getting ready last night, I was like, when was the last time we did a show? I'm like, it was like
last week,
6 days ago. And I was like,
it was last week. And we're here after Thanksgiving. You got any Black Friday You watching anything for Black Friday in particular?
I almost bought one. I have now an exercise room, and I have a treadmill, and right in front of the treadmill is a wall that just screaming, put a TV there. And right now I have a TV on a pole that rolls around, and I've been just rolling it in there. I'm like, it'd be kind of cool if I could just, and I saw a 32-inch, TV, $99.
Oh, they're cheap. Like,
and
this
I was
is
like,
the
you
year of
gotta be
TVs.
kidding me.
If you, or even monitors, this is the year. If you are suffering with too small of a of real estate, of screen real estate, this is the year, guys. It's never going to get any cheaper than it is right now.
Yeah. Anything you're watching?
No. I need to go do some shopping. With COVID spiking, I need to just get it done, because I think some states have gone curfew, and I think we may be headed in that direction too. So.
My great nieces and nephews, little kids, I think the oldest one's 12. No, he's 13. He's a teenager now. Gift cards.
Yeah.
It's like, really? And the youngest one now is 7, which just blew me away. I just realized that she loves it because she feels grown up because she's using her credit card. And I was like, yeah, but it's like, it's kind of, like, there's not much to unwrap. I'm like, but I gave them last year and they were like ecstatic over gift cards. And I'm like, well, that's easy. Okay. It'll take me.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
Everybody have a safe Thanksgiving if you're in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S., Craig, have a great Thursday.
Just another Thursday. Hey, it's time to pregame Christmas. So let's get, if you don't have Thanksgiving in the way, we've got to take this temporary, in the United States, this temporary hiatus from getting ready for Christmas. And then we do Thanksgiving for 4 days. And then bam, it's right into Christmas time. So, if you're not in the U.S., start pre-gaming Christmas for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, no, right on. All right, everybody have a great weekend. See you, Dave.
We'll see you.
Take care. See you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.